So what do y'all think about getting started? We're ready? Okay. So it is Monday, March 11th, and we are calling this meeting of the SRWA to open. Can we get a confirmation of a quorum? We have quorum? Okay, thank you. So first up, any public comments? No public comments. Okay, does anybody want to say anything? No? Okay. Well, so first item is consideration and possible action on approval of the February 5th, 2024 board meeting minutes.
I move to approve the February 5th, 2024 board meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item number 2, time for the general manager's report. And I think we'll start with the operational and financial report.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Jose Armando Garza, and I'll be presenting the production and distribution report for the month ended January 31st, 2024. And this is going to be on tab 2 of your board binder. I'm going to start on column C for the SRWA total distribution. The year-to-date, it's 832.103 million gallons for a daily average of 6.765 million gallons per day. Jumping over to column F, this is the PUB distribution, and the year-to-date is 723.329 million gallons for a daily average of 5.881 million gallons per day. Under column G, this is the distribution for volume month number 2. The year-to-date is 19.291 million gallons for a daily average of 0.157 million gallons per day. Under column H, this is the distribution for City of Los Fresnos, and the year-to-date is 7.343 million gallons for a daily average of 0.572 million gallons per day. Under column I, this is the credit for B&D, and the year-to-date is 17.475 million gallons, and the daily average is 0.142 million gallons per day. Under column J, this is the allocation for the town of Indian Lake, and the year-to-date it's 1.665 million gallons for a daily average of 0.014 million gallons per day. Below that, you can see the true-up, and we can see that Brownsville is under by 49.78 million, Valle Mar is under by 1.59 million, and Los Fresnos is over by 51.37 million. In the next page, we have the production and distribution for the month of January 2024, and on your third column from the left, we see the total production. It was at 216.116 million gallons for an average of 6.971 million gallons per day. And in the column to your far right, that's the water actually distributed from the plant, and that's at 214.506 million gallons for an average of 6.92 million gallons per day. Below that, we have the chemical consumption for January, and that was at 98,982 with 40 cents. And the electrical consumption was at 122,334.71.
Okay, I have a quick question about this one. Row number 4, we see that the total water produced was 6.021 MGDs, but our total water distributed was 7.243 MGDs.
Let me see. You're in column number 3?
4.
Column number 4. 192.188. Oh, okay, line number 4, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
row number 4, sorry, yeah.
Row number,
Instead of
okay.
column.
Let me see. 2. I will need to go back and check on that.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
it'd just be good to check some of those numbers.
Yeah. Jacob, any ideas on why that happened? Yes. It seems like we distributed more than we produce. A lot of the times, yeah, it has to be during the tank. Sometimes we let the tank drop, and then the next day we can fill it up.
Okay, and
So
so how much water can we store in the tank?
7.5 million.
Oh, so it's
Yeah.
definitely a big capacitor. Okay,
Yes.
great, great. Just, I saw a couple times where that was a little interesting.
Most of
Okay.
the time that's the issue, but at other times it can be the flow meters themselves that they may be out of calibration, stuff like that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
So it would be good to make sure that one doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
sure.
And then another question, I noticed we're down probably, what, 1 MGD a day or so? Because I think we were averaging 7.4 last month. And we were averaging a little higher.
Yes, we were blending more a few
Okay.
months back, but as we are seeing that TDS and the finished water is increasing, so that's why we're decreasing the blend for.
I don't think I've seen that reflected in some of the test results I've been looking at.
It's around 700 TDS, but if we were to go up to like 20% blend or 25, that's gonna increase it like 800 to 900. We like to keep it around 800 TDS, even though the secondary standard is 1,000. The water being produced by the surface water plant is at 800 more or less. So we try to mimic what the surface waters are producing because they're gonna blend out in the city.
Okay, so I was looking at some of your TDS reports and trying to, back it out and make it make sense with some of the chemical testing reports where you guys send it out to get lab testing.
Right.
And they don't seem to match up. So there may be a question of calibration there that we might have to discuss.
Well, in TDS itself, the chemical adjustments have very little effect on the TDS reduction or rejection. It has to do more with the membrane performance. As the membranes get older, more TDS is passing through the permeate line, which is the clean water. So when more TDS is passing through the membranes, we need to decrease the blend in order to minimize the overall TDS.
Okay, I think maybe this is something I'd like to revisit offline.
Sure.
Because when I look at the reports, it looks like our manganese and stuff is not correlated with the TDS calculated manganese and iron. So just want to make sure I understand why those are
Sure,
different.
yeah.
But-
Yeah, like I said, the TDS has more to do with the membrane performance.
Okay.
Yeah. In the next page, staff reports events that reduce production. And for the month of January, we had an event on the 22nd where we had an issue with one of our chemical feed pumps that got clogged. So the plant was down for 5 hours in order to unclog that pump and continue operation. In the next page, we are comparing the fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2024 water production. I don't know if you have any questions on that? And in the next page, basically this is the water being produced from the 3 water plants, SRWA, water plant 1, and water plant number 2. SRWA is currently producing 28.79% of the water demand for the city of Brownsville.
We're producing actually is getting to the city of Brownsville though still. This is still going to Los Fresnos?
Right. Yeah. And talking to Los City Fresno, actually, we met with their staff earlier in the week, last week, and they're getting ready to start their plant this month.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is George. So with the screen there in front of you, I am going to be concentrating on the far right column labeled fiscal year 2024 year to date. And we will start off with line number 3. We had total operating revenues through January 2024 of $2,603,859. To that, we will go ahead and subtract out our total operating expenses found on line 10, which equal $1,870,866, which gives us operating income of revenues of $27,791, gives us income before capital contributions of $760,784. We did not have any capital contributions through the year, so our change in net position remains the same at $760,784. We add that to the net position at the beginning of the year of $22,764,917, gives us a net position for the end of the period of SRWA, if you all have any other questions on the financials.
Any questions?
No, I have none.
I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And now it's time for Renee to give us an update on how he's making it rain in homicide. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. And unfortunately, not a lot of rain. We did receive some rain in the middle of the month down in our area. As you can see there, steady at 22.2, so slight uptick. And I've just added the last 3 readings. You'll see that for the month February, it remained fairly steady.
Does this update now include the increased dead pool, the increased amount of water that we don't have access to in Amistad?
This is just a combined.
Okay, just the
Yeah,
combined.
the combined
dead
storage.
pool. Okay, got it.
This is below average rainfall, warm and dry conditions throughout the reservoir inflow regions. We're still at U.S. combined storage remaining at or near record lows. Trends are leaning drier than average into the spring. We may get some thunderstorms over the March through mid-May. Doesn't look like it's going to impact us significantly. So everything seems to be fairly steady through the watershed. Bottom line, reservoirs remain fairly steady through February. Remained. We're going to continue through stage 2 through May. Predicting below average rainfall within the watershed. We're still looking at a stage 3, probably summer, probably the latter part of summer. And then we added this last bullet here. As far as water conservation plan, this is something that's updated every 5 years. It's due May 1st. For now, we're looking at updating, submitting a placeholder here next month, and then we'll amend it, update it a little later with any city ordinance revisions or changes at a later date. Any questions?
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and that brings us to item 3, the consideration and possible action to authorize the general manager and chief executive officer to negotiate and execute all documents necessary to implement the Southmost Regional Water Authority's property insurance renewal for policy year 2024 through 2025.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Estrella Solórzano. I am the Director of Customer and Support Services for BPUB, and I oversee the Risk Insurance Management Department. In your packet, I did provide a presentation and an analysis from our property and casualty insurance consultant, Gallagher. If you have any questions, I can go over the presentation. And Therese O'Brien, who's the Area Vice President with Gallagher, is available to go over the analysis as well. Mr. President, would you like me to go over the presentation, or I can just touch on just some brief items?
I think it's worth at least touching on the brief items since we have a
Okay.
17% increase.
Our insurance broker is Marsh USA LLC. This is a board-approved item on a BPUB board-approved item on March 8, 2023 for a 3-year period with the option to renew. We did bring SRWA's portion to the board as well for approval. The policy year is from April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. This is the second year of a 3-year premium. It is important to note that SRWA's premium is prorated based on the overall insured values. SRWA is 6% of the overall insured values, which is why your insurance renewal is prorated to the amount of $169,641. This is where you would go, what you will see the breakdown in the presentation. We are looking at 17% of an increase at this point. We are working on reviewing the current terms and conditions, and information is being provided by the broker that is being reviewed by our consultant and our internal BPUB staff to do what is best for BPUB's renewal and to hopefully get a better premium. So this would only be a worst-case scenario type of premium renewal. We are scheduled to go to the BPUB board for the 94% or their portion of the insured values. Do you have any questions for either myself or for Ms. O'Brien?
No, I have none.
Is that happening tonight?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Yes, our BPUB insurance renewal, or the property insurance renewal, is April 1st, so I do need to bring it for consideration prior to that. At least on a worst-case scenario, trying to get better from there. Because if not, we'll miss the renewal. Any other questions, or may I go ahead and read the recommendation?
Go ahead.
BPUB staff recommends the board authorize the general manager and chief executive officer to negotiate and execute all documents necessary to implement the Southmost Regional Water Authority's property insurance renewal for policy year 2024 to 2025 for a total not to exceed $169,641.
Can I get a motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve.
I'll second that. All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and item number 4, consideration and approval of the Southmost Regional Water Authority's financial audit report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Mike Perez. I'm the CFO. The firm of Burton, McCumber, and Longoria, LLP, has completed SRWA's fiscal year 2023 year-end audit. In their opinion, the financial statements were presented fairly in all material aspects with U.S. Generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards, earning the SRWA an unmodified opinion, basically a clean opinion. The results of the audit were presented to the BPUB Finance Committee on February the 7th, and BPUB's financial statements were approved this previous month on February the 12th. So here with us today is Ben Pena, partner with BML, to present their letter of governance to the board and the SRWA's fiscal year 23 audited financial report. Ben?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Like Mike said, my name is Ben Pena. I'm with Burton, McCumber, and Longoria. I am the audit partner in charge of the audit of the Southmost Regional Water Authority audit. The SRWA is a component unit of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board, and these financial statements are included as a component unit in those financial statements. Nonetheless, this is a separate breakout report for this separate governing board, which we are also opining on with respect to those financial statements. As Mike mentioned, these are unmodified opinions, which means that they are clean opinions. Overall, the audit went well. There were no issues with respect to difficulties encountered during the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements. There was no disagreements with management, and there were no findings with respect to internal control over financial reporting on these financial statements. In the current year, there were changes to the GASB. The Government Accounting Standards Board is the governing body that sets accounting principles related to governmental entities. Every now and then, they decide to move the furniture around and change the way we do accounting. And so this year, the biggest thing was the GASB 96, which is the subscription-based information technology agreements, which by and large mostly accounts for those subscription agreements as lease accounting. It's a revenue, it's an expenditure stream going out, so you record an asset and a liability and kind of account for it. There was no effect in the current year for the authority with respect to that new standard. The biggest estimate within these financial statements, and estimates are kind of subjective, and they require some assumptions to be made. And so the biggest estimate that we have on our financial is the depreciation on capital assets. You've got estimated useful lives, you got depreciation methods, you got estimated residual values. So nonetheless, we look at those depreciation estimates and the processes that management uses to compute those estimates, and we didn't take any exception to the way they are presented. Page 4, you will see our opinion on the report. Again, it is an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. And I'd like to go over a few items on the financial statements with respect to how the authority ended up at the end of September 30th, 2023. If you follow me to page 17, one of the biggest items that everybody, for the most part, looks at is your ending net position. And you'll see that the authority has $22.7 million in ending net position, which is your equity or your fund balance, of which 12 is in capital assets, 893 is for debt service, and 2.5 is restricted for capital projects, and unrestricted is the 7.1. The difference between that amount, the 22.7 and the 20.265 in the prior year, is a net change of almost 2.5 million. If you turn over the page, on page 18, you will see that the 2.5 million is your ending net income or change in net position of 2,499,000 or 2.5 million. And so that's the change in your net position. You'll see that the revenues increased to 8 million to prior year 6.7 million, and your expenses operating expenses stayed relatively the same, increased a little bit by about 400,000. But overall, if you look at your change in net position compared to prior year, 2.5 versus last year's 851. And that's mostly attributed to the increasing the member assessments. The next item that I'd like to point out is on page 9 is the statement of cash flows. And the beauty about the statement of cash flows is that it kind of gives you a picture of what the big items were for the year. You'll see from operating activities, we had 8 million in received from members, and the expenses of 4.3 million. We did have some debt service of 1.6 million in principal payments and 672 on interest related to those bonds. And we also invested in capital assets of 276,000. In the middle, you'll see that we have the movement of activities throughout the year of purchase of investments of 31.2 million and sales of investments of 29.7, and it ends up with a negative 1,079,000, which all that means is that we invested more during the year than we started off with. So a negative means a cash use of investments, meaning we invested more of about 1 million. And your cash and cash equivalents ended up at 7.7 million. Overall, good report. Again, no difficulties related to completing the audit. Everything is in order and tidy. You have a good staff working on these financials, and so we're very pleased to report this at this time.
Well, thank you. Any concerns that weren't noted?
No.
Nope,
No.
nothing? Okay, everything looked good.
Everything's in order and no issues.
Awesome.
Good report.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, this is an action item. So at this time, staff recommends approval of the financial audit report for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2023.
Just a quick logistics question. So, for everybody's reference, my dad still does, I believe, work for BML on a small basis. Am I able to vote for the approval of this particular audit? Do we
I
see
don't,
any?
I don't believe your dad currently has any relationship to us at this time with respect to being a
So
partner, so you're fine.
Oh, okay, so he
Yeah,
doesn't do anything.
there is no
Okay.
independence issues and,
Okay, great. Well, that makes it real easy.
yeah, it makes it easy.
Okay, obviously, we don't talk about this very often. Okay, well then,
We have a motion to approve.
I guess I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Haven't been hitting the gavel.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Okay, and our last item is discussion on the date and time of next board meeting.
Well, our next board meeting is scheduled for April 8th. Our apologies that it should March 4th as our meeting date. Obviously, today's the 11th, so we'll get that corrected and note when the change was made to the agenda there. And if everything's okay with the date, we'll leave it as is for April 8th. That's the next meeting. Is there any other items also you would like to see at that meeting?
I can't think of anything right now. Maybe just a little update on the Los Fresnos water plant, just so we all get to see what it looks like, if nothing else.
Okay,
If they don't mind, I mean, you know. But-
will do.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay,
Move the meeting be adjourned.
thank you, and I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned passes.